photograph, I hold my breath, and I put it here, and people could see that. There's a 0% chance of infection from that.
As part of this commitment, and to be prepared for a range of contingencies, the United States will soon move additional forces to Romania, Poland, and Germany.
The United States is sending troops across Europe. Eric Garcetti, the mayor of Los Angeles, says he held his breath when he took photos at the Sunday's NSC Championship game, which is ridiculous to say the least. And also, more information on lockdowns and how we knew beforehand that they wouldn't work. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
From a dingy bunker completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. Today is February 3rd, the year of our Lord 2022. We got an interesting one for you today. Eric Garcetti is the mayor of Los Angeles. You're going to know him. I think he's going to come to national prominence in a little. Just give it some time. He's going to go be the ambassador to India or something. He wants to run for president. He's one of those types of people. But he said something very interesting regarding a mask controversy the other day. Let's see. We got more news on Afghanistan, interestingly enough. That's going to be, well, that'll come to you in a later segment. That's a really interesting thing that we're now learning several months past the debacle of leaving America's longest war. Also, lockdown stuff we got to get to. Want to start off on a cheery note, I guess. See this picture? See that picture? That's a basketball player, Magic Johnson. San Francisco mayor to his left, right? Shoot, I'm looking at a screen. I've got a camera. All these things are flipped. I'm not entirely sure which is which. If you're just listening, there's a woman in the photo. Her name is London Breed. She is the mayor of San Francisco. And the other guy in the photo with the "we're number one" finger is Mayor Eric Garcetti of Los Angeles. Both of them are mayors of very lockdowny cities. Mask mandates all the way around. We brought you this story. This should have died down several days ago, but the pictures came out from Sunday's NFC Championship game, which the Rams won in Los Angeles, in which Magic Johnson, who I think might be on my team in terms of exposing all of the hypocrisy of the mask mandates in California, posted photos of Gavin Newsom with a mask, without a mask, taking a photo. But also in that collection of photos was London Breed and Eric Garcetti, the mayors of San Francisco and Los Angeles, respectively. In that stadium, there was a triple mask mandate. The state has a mask mandate until February 15th. The county of Los Angeles had a mask mandate. The city of Los Angeles has a mask mandate. So 3 mask mandates altogether, yet the mayor of the biggest and the second biggest city in the state, and also the governor of the state, were photographed without masks with Magic Johnson, legend basketball player. But here's what I thought was hilarious about this. We played Gavin's clip. Governor King Gavin Newsom had a clip the other day in which he addressed it and said, I took it off for a brief second. Then there was a bunch of photos that came out and said, no, dude, you weren't wearing it the entire time. Which is fine. I agree with you, King Gavin Newsom. You shouldn't wear masks because the mask rule is dumb. Pretty much every scientist says that the Omicron, you're going to get Omicron. Like, that's the moral of the story, is you're going to get it. You probably should get the COVID shot if you're, of a certain age and of a certain amount of comorbidities. If you don't want to get it, that's fine with me. I don't care. Do whatever you want to do. But you're going to get the Omicron variant. But Eric Garcetti then put out a statement. The only reason we're bringing this up again is because Eric Garcetti went on some sort of presser yesterday and said something even more ridiculous. Like, the story was dead, yet the mayor of Los Angeles wants us to bring attention to the national media of how dumb he thinks we are. Watch this clip. It is unbelievable. If you haven't already, click the little like button, click the little share button. It really helps us out. Really appreciate it. We need to stay on the air, need to generate some action. The best way you can help us do that, just click the like button. It doesn't cost you anything. Click the little share button. Really appreciate it. People need to see this story. Listen to this, or watch this. This is Mayor of LA got photographed without a mask, and here is his explanation. You're not going to believe this.
I wore my mask the entire game, And when people ask for a photograph, I hold my breath and I put it here and people could see that. There's a 0% chance of infection from that.
Eric Garcetti got up and said, "Oh, well, I held my breath. I had my mask on the entire time, but when anyone asked for a photo, I held my breath because that was going to stop it." Here's the other thing, Eric. Every scientist pretty much agrees that you're going to get Omicron. The whole mask thing doesn't help at all. So you holding your breath, which one we don't believe to begin with, but you holding your breath didn't really do anything different than just wearing the mask around. You can wear the mask. You don't need to wear one. Literally all of the science agrees that you're going to get Omicron. Omicron is, if you haven't dug deep on this, we haven't really gone super deep into it, but the Omicron variant as a variant in and of itself is like astonishingly spreadable. You're going to get it. Thankfully, it's, I think, less symptoms than most people have had. I think I had it. All of my friends, I think, have had it at this point. Everybody's fine. But you're not going to stop it with a mask. And pretty much everybody in the scientific community agrees on that. So either way, Eric, you can hold your breath and take photos, or you can just not wear the mask. None of it's actually going to do any good. But I don't know. I'm going to play that one more time just because I think it's hilarious. This is Eric again holding his breath.
I wore my mask the entire game, and when people ask for a photograph, I hold my breath and I put it here and people could see that. There's a 0% chance of infection from that.
No. It's totally fine. He held his breath. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section, how dumb does Eric think that we are? Seriously. And Eric Garcetti, if you're not familiar with him, he's the mayor of Los Angeles. Never, I don't think, has held a real job. An academic, intellectual type person who's hoity-toity, goes to school and talks about theories and talks about all this sort of stuff, doesn't actually have any experience in the real world and how things actually operate. So probably, maybe that's why he thinks that we're dumb enough to, one, believe him, and two, buy the fact that that works. Oh, you were holding your breath? Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely, Eric, totally trust you on that. Thanks, bud. But that's that. It got really interesting. I'm trying to figure out which I want to get to first. This is really interesting. The United States is mobilizing troops in regards to the Russia-Ukraine situation. Catch you up really quick if you're brand new, you haven't heard anything on this show, you haven't been watching the news, anything like that. Vladimir Putin has got like 130,000 troops along the Ukrainian border. The entire global community is like, I don't know what the heck we do about this. Could get ugly. Joe Biden gave a press conference about 2 weeks ago in which he said, well, minor incursion, not really sure about that, what we would actually do. Up until that point, troops on the ground was like not even in the frame of reference. Like nobody was even talking about that. But then he made that little mistake. And I think he's been trying to walk it back for the last couple of weeks. And now we're actually sending troops into the area. I think 3,000 troops are going into certain parts of Europe in order to hopefully, I guess, deter Vladimir Putin from going into Ukraine. Whether or not that's actually a thing remains to be seen. Everybody I've seen talking about this in your military world have basically said, if we were going to actually do anything militarily, 3,000 troops isn't going to do anything, and we would actually send way more troops. So in effect, it seems like what the administration is doing is trying to get people not fired up, but act like we're doing something. Let's see. President Biden directed the Pentagon to deploy 3,000 American troops to bolster the defense of European allies in a major move of the U.S.'s military standoff with Ukraine. That happened Monday, I believe. Tuesday. Mr. Biden is sending 2,000 troops from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, to Poland and Germany this week, respond and repositioning about 1,000 troops to that part of Germany-based infantry early also this week. So about 3,000 people are going over to, or at least 2,000 Americans are going from the United States there, and then he's repositioning about 1,000 people in, I guess, strategic locations, but if I were a very good, very partisan talk show host, I would say, oh my gosh, the Biden administration is mobilizing troops who are going to go to World War. But I think every serious military analyst that I've listened to, read, is kind of like, we don't really know why this is happening. We really don't really know what this is doing. I think it's an attempt to deter, but this is nowhere near enough troops or the right positioning for an actual plan to get militarily involved, which I think is a good thing. A lot of stuff going on there, so we'll keep an eye on that and see what it is that happens. Actually, you know what? I got more on this Afghanistan stuff that I want to talk to you about, because there's new stuff with Afghanistan that came out that I think we all should be aware of. But before I do that, I got to tell you about protecting your savings. Do you have savings? Have you saved up any money through your working career or your entire life? If you did, unfortunately, inflation is going to get the better of you. 7% inflation over the last year. It is out of this world. Reagan had to deal with inflation 40 years ago. He said that inflation is no different than a mugger who would steal your money in the middle of the night. 7% inflation last year, 40-year high. It is going nuts. You have to protect yourself against inflation. And how do you do that? Well, the best way that you can do that, the most proven way to protect yourself from inflation, is with gold. And our friends at Birch Gold will send you a free, no obligation, no risk packet info kit that tells you everything you need to know about investing in gold. If you have an IRA, if you have a 401k, you can roll those into a gold-backed IRA. There's lots of different ways Birch Gold can help you protect your protect your savings against inflation. So, text JOBOB to 989898. That's Jobob to 989898. And our friends at Birch Gold send you a no-obligation packet that tells you everything you need to know. Again, friend to a friend, do it for you. Protect your savings against the government trying to sabotage the value of the U.S. dollar. JOBOB to 989898. That's Jobob to 989898. Back to this slide here. So this is interesting. This is breaking coming out of the Daily Caller. Michael Ginsberg in the Daily Caller reporting as many as 9,000 Americans were left in Afghanistan when the U.S. military withdrawal from the country on August 31st was complete, according to a report released Thursday by the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. So today there was a report. Look, this is I think important. I think Afghanistan should still be front of mind for a lot of people, especially with the midterms coming up. If you haven't already, click the little like button, click the little share button. Really helps us out, get to more people, but at the same time, help more people see this, because I think this is going to get completely buried under the rug. Today, as many as 9,000 American citizens were left in Afghanistan with the military withdrawal. In a public statement, Biden administration officials, including Secretary of State Antony Blinken, claimed that only 100 to 150 Americans remained in Afghanistan and have contacted the U.S. government with a desire to leave. The State Department and Defense Department officials stuck to that number, even though the government publicly admitted that large number of American citizens were still leaving the country. So the government's official stance, Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, along with, this says, Biden officials, including Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, have been saying that about 100 to 150 Americans are still in Afghanistan with a desire to leave. But a new report from the Senate says that about 9,000, not necessarily about, rephrase that, a new report from the Senate says that as many as 9,000 Americans are still in Afghanistan or were left in Afghanistan at the time of the U.S. withdrawal. The report, signed by Foreign Relations Ranking Member Jim Risk of Oklahoma, reveals that State Department officials believe that between 10,000 to 15,000 Americans were in Afghanistan as late as August 17th. In the next 2 weeks, only 6,000 Americans were able to escape from the country ahead of the Taliban takeover. In testimony in front of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, however, Blinken claimed that approximately 150 to 150 remain. So Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, in a in a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing said that only 100 to 150,000 people are there. This is the Secretary of State saying this. But the reports that has been released are basically saying that somewhere between 10,000 and 15,000 people were left, 10,000 to 15,000 Americans were left as late as August 17th. From August 17th until August 31st, when we completed that mission, only 6,000 Americans were evacuated. So simple math would tell you it's either 4,000 or as many as 9,000, which is way more than 100 to 150, as Senator Blinken stated in his testimony. Again, this is a brand new report coming out of, is it the Senate? Senate Foreign Affairs Relations Committee. Brand new report coming out of the Senate Foreign Affairs Relations Committee. We'll see if anybody does anything about this or gets held accountable in any sort of way. But it's way more than the Secretary of State stated in a House Foreign Relations Committee hearing. I want to get to this. Sorry, I'm a little bit heated. A lot of things to be irritated about in the modern world. Let me see if there's any comments that we can read through this. Yeah, Biden administration failed in Afghanistan. Yeah, all of this stuff is pretty much right in line with everything that all of you are probably thinking. The Afghanistan debacle was terrible, and we shouldn't have gone that far. I do want to read this. So U.S. national debt. I don't know if you knew this. National debt hit $30 trillion yesterday, 2 days ago. $30 trillion, huge number. We now have $30 trillion in debt. Let me do the math really quick. I'm curious to see what that costs per person, because I think you'd be surprised. Because when people talk about the debt, right, they talk about it as if, oh, well, it's this big number. And a lot of your super lefty people will say, that's for the rich to pay. But it, of course, is not. 30 trillion divided by 340 million Americans. About $88,000 per person. Sweet. So that's what you have to look forward to, or your kids have to look forward to. The most shocking thing about this is the debt has gone up $7 trillion since January of 2020. But, at the very least, we did gain a lot from it. Oh, wait, we didn't? Because of the lockdowns? We had to spend that money because of the lockdowns that stopped 0.2% of COVID mortality rates. Hope you can recognize the sarcasm here. $7 trillion, and we didn't really get much for it. But there's a really, really interesting component to this John Hopkins article that we were talking about the last couple of days that I just found yesterday that stay tuned, because it will shock you if I were to use the old talk show adage. But before I tell you about that, I got to tell you one more time about investing in gold. Your savings is getting ruined by inflation. Ronald Reagan had to deal with it 40 years ago. He said inflation is just like a mugger in the middle of the night. It will steal your money and not think twice about it. And that's exactly what inflation does. Look, the government wants high inflation because it lessens the debt burden that they have, because their debt is in U.S. dollars. And if U.S. dollars expand and the value diminishes, they effectively have yet less value on their debt that they have to pay back. Maybe we'll get into that I don't know, in a different time. I keep saying that. Maybe we'll actually do it one of these days. But you have to protect your savings because inflation is going rampant. What are gas prices like where you live? What are the price of groceries where you live? I'm imagining they're going to be high. What's the best way you can protect yourself against inflation? Well, investing in precious metals is the best way to do it. Since the dawn of time, gold, silver, a bunch of different precious metals have been the best way to hedge against inflation since the beginning of the monetary system. Now, investing in gold doesn't necessarily mean you get a truck and back it up and dig a hole in your backyard and shove it in the hole, but you can do that, and our friends at Birch Gold can also help you do that. But if you want to take an existing IRA or an existing 401k and roll it into a gold-backed IRA, whatever you want to do to invest in gold, our friends at Birch Gold can help you do that. And they will send you a free, no obligation, no nothing information kit that tells you everything you need to know about protecting your savings and investing in gold. You can do that by texting JOBOB to 989898. That's Jobob to 989898 and get everything you need to know about investing in gold. Birch Gold is an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau. They've helped thousands of Americans protect their savings. You can do it too. Text JOBOB to 989898. That's Jobob to 989898. I want to get back to this lockdown thing because I think this is interesting. Like I was saying, national debt hit $30 trillion a couple days ago, so that's a huge freaking number. And $7 trillion was added since January 2020. Well, we had to spend all that money because of the lockdowns, which did effectively nothing. 0.2% is the number that we've been talking about for the last couple of days. Johns Hopkins released a report that said, 0.2% of COVID mortality was closed. But this, I thought, was freaking fascinating. Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security Preparedness. So this is a report released in 2019. This is going to blow your mind because it blew my mind. This was released in 2019. A report from Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security released a report called Preparedness for High-Impact Respiratory Pathogen Pandemic. Essentially, this was a plan put in place by Johns Hopkins, sent to the CDC, sent to the WHO, said, hey, if there's ever a respiratory pandemic, here's what we should do, and here's what works, and here's what doesn't work. This was in 2019. They had a plan for this. In that report, basically, the entire report said, the lockdowns, social distancing, any of that sort of stuff, that's not going to work at all. Nothing's actually going to help. We just have to scream towards a vaccine or scream towards something that's going to quell the pandemic, but none of that stuff is going to work. This was in this report. This was in this study, again, from Johns Hopkins called Preparedness for High-Impact Respiratory Pathogen Pandemic, said this. During an emergency, it should be expected that the implementation of some non-pharmaceutical interventions, such as travel restrictions and quarantines, might be pursued for social or political purposes by political leaders, rather than pursued because of public health evidence. You don't say. This report from before the pandemic was saying, look, people are going to try to push these lockdowns, travel restrictions. It doesn't work. Fight it. This is a report from 2019. The report also says WHO should rapidly and clearly articulate its opposition to inappropriate non-pharmaceutical interventions, especially when they are a threat to public health response activities or pose increased risk to the health of the public. So in effect, what we're saying is not only did we just find out that lockdowns didn't actually do anything, but we knew way beforehand. Why is this now just coming to light? Is anybody going to report on this? Seriously, I haven't seen this until now. It should be expected that implementation of some non-pharmaceutical interventions, such as travel restrictions and quarantine, might be pursued for social or political purposes by political leaders rather than pursued because of public health evidence. We knew all along that none of this was going to work. Yet we did it anyway. What does that tell you about our society and our system? Look, I'm starting to get my tinfoil hat on here and say that, hey, how much did these people know before getting all this stuff locked down? And they said, too, the WHO should rapidly and adequately let everybody know that none of this stuff is going to work. And now we find out that it didn't work anyway. So the conclusion turned out to be a good proof of the hypothesis. Interesting. That's going to do it for us today. I got some interesting stuff on Leah Thomas, the transgender swimmer in, in Penn State, that's been making all of these headlines. I'll get more into that a little bit later. Also, we've got Alex Spencer tomorrow come on talk about some cultural bananas craziness. That's always fun. Really appreciate her coming on that. But yeah, the NCAA is taking a look at this swimming thing. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how that pans out. But we will see you tomorrow. End the day and the week on a high note. Happy Little Friday to you. Have a great rest of your day. See you tomorrow. Same time, same place. God bless America.